My world shattered not once, but twice, the day I returned home early, ready to disclose my terminal illness, only to find my wife in the arms of another. This story from our online community explores the concept of legacy. We often focus on precision and meticulous planning, but perhaps what truly matters is expressing affection and cherishing those you love daily. I used an anonymous account for obvious reasons. My current circumstances and chosen path prevent me from fully confiding in those closest to me. On the 1st of December, I received the dreaded news. All medical examinations confirmed the diagnosis. I have stage 4 pancreatic cancer. This means this holiday season will be my last. I am at peace with what is to come. I have lived a fulfilling life, and my loved ones will be financially secure. I am a naturally reserved individual, so my wife Jane remains unaware of my medical tests. I chose not to worry her until I had definitive answers. So, I headed home early, intending to have that difficult conversation. It was not something I wished to do via phone or text. As you might imagine, being here now, my life transformed irrevocably more than once that afternoon. Upon arriving at the house, I noticed the vehicle of one of my business associates in the driveway. It was unmistakable, ostentatious, costly, with a personalized license plate. To call its presence unusual would be a severe understatement. I accessed our home security camera system on my mobile device and observed it was in privacy mode, not recording. I decided to leave it and drove off to my farm property. Our camera system is primarily for security, and I rarely check it unless there is a specific concern. However, I also enjoy observing wildlife with the exterior cameras. Additionally, I find it strangely calming to watch storms roll through. So, for my personal enjoyment years ago, I configured a second video recorder to archive the camera feeds to local storage. This storage is not accessible through my phone. Therefore, once at the farm, I opened my computer and accessed the secondary server to confirm what my intuition was telling me. And indeed, there they were, cuddling in the living room, sharing wine, dancing, then proceeding upstairs to the master suite. Apparently, they left the doors ajar because the microphone captured their activities even after they moved out of the camera's view. With my remaining time limited, I desired answers, but wished to avoid the upheaval of a direct confrontation and divorce proceedings. Judge me as you will, but all my devotion and affection for her vanished that afternoon. I experienced all the emotions one would expect. I knew I was not at fault. I had been a faithful, attentive, and loving partner. My focus now shifted entirely to myself. Knowing what truly mattered, I contacted my attorney. We reviewed my will and our prenuptial agreement. I informed him of the situation, and we began to ascertain the duration and extent of this affair. What we uncovered was unsettling. It suggested either I never truly knew the woman I had shared over 2 decades of my life with, or something fundamental within her had changed. At this time, I decided not to reveal anything to my children. My current wife and I never had children together. I resolved to maintain my composure and see through the holidays, ensuring my children and grandchildren enjoyed one last memorable festive season with me. I would play the role of the devoted father and grandfather, and then attempt to portray the loving husband. Some background for common inquiries. The affair partner is a widower and has not remarried. He is a business associate, not a personal friend. I do not mix investments with friendships. I never married the mother of my twins. It was her decision, and I fully agreed at the time that she made the correct choice. My children's mother, Sarah, married a wonderful man named Steve when the kids were 7. Sarah and Steve never had children of their own. I matured significantly when the children were 3. I had been very involved before that, but that was when I truly committed to becoming the father I aspired to be. Sarah and I successfully co-parented, and I consider Steve a friend. Sarah, Steve, and I are in our 60s. Jane is nearly 60. The affair partner is in his 50s. Jane and I are both in our first marriages. We were in our 30s when we wed. I needed an external channel, a release valve, to achieve my objective. I needed to express my anger and process my situation. What better outlet than anonymous online individuals? I am at peace with how and when my life will conclude. Let us hear some reactions from the community before we proceed. Life Yogurt 98 commented, I would confide in Sarah and Steve. They could help prepare for the aftermath and manage any overlooked details. My condolences, OP. Evil Eye Man stated, create a video will explaining why Jane receives nothing. Expose her when you have a captive audience of family and friends. Overfollowing 5758 added, besides a video will, display your archived footage during the will reading. Inform Sarah and Steve in advance. Ensure the will and prenup are legally sound. Leave everything to the children. Make the most of your remaining time. Love your kids and family. I am praying for you. Nunia50811972 said, I sincerely hope you leave everything to your children and grandchildren. Please, nothing for Jane. I'm sorry about this. I wish that after the holidays, you can spend the rest of your life with those who genuinely love you. I'm so sorry you're enduring this amidst your diagnosis, OP. You were right to contact your lawyer and establish a framework for divorce. Your composure and clear thinking through all of this are remarkable. I suppose in such times, we must maintain a sense of calm as our priorities become starkly clear. I am sorry, OP. I extend my gratitude for all your support. It has truly helped. I have read every comment and they have given me much to consider. I will now provide some general details to further clarify my situation. Sarah and I were quite young when our twins arrived. They were unexpected but always desired. The twins are now in their 40s, and the grandchildren are all teenagers or older. Christmas is an annual week-long celebration. We spend the period from Christmas to New Year at the farm. We cut down a tree after everyone arrives, then decorate, cook, play, and celebrate as a family. Sarah and Steve have been part of this tradition since I purchased the farm. I remain resolute in not informing anyone until after the new year. If I told Sarah, she would be unable to keep it secret. I do not wish to put Steve in a position where he would have to lie to his wife. My priority is for the children and grandchildren to enjoy the week. We will have ample time for tears and preparations in a few weeks. Jane's presence this week will ultimately be a minor detail. Frankly, I care very little about her compared to the rest of my family. The financial situation is quite interesting. Jane and I met and married after we both had established significant careers and wealth. She had a good job with a substantial pension and 2 inheritances held in a trust. We agreed early on that we were both financially secure and would not disclose our entire net worth to each other. At her insistence, we also had a prenuptial agreement stating that any property or trust predating the marriage and any income derived from those assets would not be considered marital property. Again, this was at her insistence. I have always provided both residences, along with utilities. I paid for travel, food, and fuel. Essentially, I supported her entirely. Her income and personal wealth were spent solely on herself. She bought her car, clothing, personal trips, and cosmetic surgery. She possesses outward beauty, but as I have discovered, she is truly unpleasant inside. A few days after receiving my diagnosis, I announced my retirement from the nonprofit organization. Now, knowing what I know, I observe Jane seems somewhat uncomfortable. I can surmise why. I would be home more often. So, tomorrow marks my final day of work. My focus will now be on spending time with my family. I provided my lawyer with the camera server information and granted him remote access from his office. So, I am unaware if they engaged in further activities, but I would assume so. Again, at this point, I no longer care. I understand who I am and my own value. Her partner is a significant downgrade. Despite his flashy exterior, I am quite understated. I drive a 15-year-old pickup truck, prefer jeans and t-shirts, and wear coveralls in winter. I know for a fact that her partner does not possess anywhere near the wealth Jane imagines he does. How? Because my trust has invested in his business, I receive quarterly financial reports. I do not disclose my total assets to anyone. That information is solely between my accountants and me. But suffice it to say, the trust has been accumulating wealth for 3 decades. I lead a modest life, and there are sufficient funds for my great-great-grandchildren to enjoy the farm and have their education paid for. Once Jane realizes what she has lost, that will be her true reckoning. I simply will not be there to witness it. December became exceptionally busy. We completed our usual social engagements over the past weekends. Her partner was present at one of the parties. It was challenging not to observe Jane and him. I do not believe I was caught, being so preoccupied with concluding my work responsibilities. I found it easier to maintain my composure. Jane has given no indication that she knows I am aware. I am not proud of this, but I continue to sleep in the same bed. I have been somewhat distant with her lately, I feel as though I am using her, but she has apparently been using me for at least the greater part of this year. I am not as honorable as many of you have suggested. I despise this small act of deception. Therefore, do not worry about Jane inheriting everything, because she will not. The trust is in capable hands. I have provided detailed instructions on its management. Thanks to your comments, I have made provisions in case my health deteriorates sooner than anticipated or if I pass unexpectedly. I have also arranged for in-home care when it becomes necessary. Jane will not be my caregiver if I become incapacitated. My lawyer will inform Sarah, Steve, and the children. Jane will be barred from contact with me. All crucial documents, valuables, and personal items have been relocated to a secure place. Finally, I have also begun writing letters to each family member and to Jane. These have proven more difficult than I had imagined. So, I wanted to update you all before the festivities commence. I might check in during the holiday week, but if I do not, it is planned and expected. Again, thank you all. Let's return to the community for additional comments. NZ Deep Diver said, "Thank you for the update and clarification. I am glad your twins are older. They will undoubtedly be devastated by your prognosis, but they are mature enough to cope. I wish you nothing but peace in your remaining days, and I hope you can create more lasting memories for your grandchildren. One suggestion, record many videos over the holidays. In the years to come, when your children and grandchildren look at family photos, having video to watch does more than simply associate a picture with a name. Future generations will be able to see your smile, hear your laughter, and listen to your voice. Thank you again for the update and clarification. I cannot even imagine what you are experiencing, OP, but it is reassuring to hear that you have taken all the necessary steps to safeguard yourself and your family, excluding Jane. Regarding Jane's ignorance of her partner's full financial situation, you are likely correct, and she is foolish for thinking otherwise. In fact, she is generally foolish. Mission accomplished. We experienced a wonderful, conflict-free holiday week. I have made it to 2023. I apologize in advance to anyone. I find humor about my condition helpful. I admit I am being somewhat self-indulgent currently. All the guests departed yesterday afternoon. I only have a few updates because I will not discuss my week with the family. That is for me to cherish. Observations regarding my wife this week. I genuinely believe this is the first time she has stepped out of line. Being with all of us this entire week seemed to take a toll on her. It is interesting how, once you possess certain knowledge, a person's actions become clearer. She was secretive with her phone. She repeatedly excused herself from family gatherings to get some fresh air. The most amusing incident was when she needed to go into town, and one of the grandchildren also wanted to go. The elaborate maneuvers she performed to avoid taking the grandchild were quite something. I must confess, I somewhat indulged in provoking her by asking, "Why not?" So, the affair is ongoing. Now that I am retired, she inquires about my daily or weekly plans. I inform her, then ask about her plans. Later this week, I will suggest we meet for lunch, citing my presence in the same area as her, just to mess with her. I suppose it is true, as someone mentioned in another post, unpredictability is a cheater's worst nightmare. This morning I met with my lawyer. I had made decisions and requested him to draft the necessary documents. I replaced my temporary will with my new permanent one, which has been signed and should not require further changes. In preparation for everything to unfold, I had him prepare divorce papers based on the prenuptial agreement and the evidence of the affair. She will receive nothing but 25% of our shared assets, primarily household goods and furniture. I retain all my liquid assets, retirement funds, and items purchased with my own wealth. Furthermore, if I pursue it, she is required to pay alimony. I have signed them and have a packet containing all our evidence of the affair. I am holding this in case I choose to use it. I sold my loan to the trust. I will permit the trustees to convert it into shares in her partner's company. Regarding the trust, I have decided how I want it to be managed. I will reduce myself to a 1% trustee. The twins will receive the majority of the trusteeship. The 4 grandchildren will comprise the remainder. Sarah and Steve will serve as proxies for all grandchildren until each reaches the age of 24. The children's trusteeship will then transfer from Sarah and Steve to the respective grandchild. If any fractional vote value remains, Sarah receives the extra share. I have arranged a meeting with the children, Sarah, and Steve for next week. I plan to tell them everything then. They will need to sign documents, and they will want to understand my reasons. So, once this is complete, my personal net worth will consist of my liquid assets, personal property, and the proceeds from the affair partner's loan. Thus, in the worst-case scenario, Jane will receive very little compared to the assets and value within the trust. In the coming weeks, I will distribute the few personal items I wish to give to the children and grandchildren. These are already in a secure location accessible to my lawyer. You asked about my health. To be clear, I am not fighting this. I am allowing nature to take its course. Consequently, I experience no adverse side effects from any treatments. I did notice this week that I tired more easily. The family also observed this. I played it off as an old man getting older. I still have the cough. The cough was what started everything. It was the tumors in my lung that led to all the diagnoses. I simply attributed that to a lingering COVID cough. I anticipate a rapid decline once other issues emerge, but by then everyone will know. Thank you all for your well wishes on that aspect. I intend to spend time with my family. A large trip with all their various commitments would be difficult, which is why this week was so important to me. It was the last time I could be with all of them for an extended period. I am considering a small trip for myself. We shall see. I do plan on spending a day, one-on-one, with each child and grandchild. That is my next objective. The letters are not yet finished. Those are proving very challenging. I will inform you all how next week's meeting goes. All the best to you. One more community check-in. Butters Montakia said, "You are such a wonderful man, OP. There are truly terrible people who live long, unproductive lives, yet individuals like yourself are unfairly taken. I am sending you the biggest, tightest, most enduring hug, not a fleeting, insincere one." The original poster replied, "Thank you, but do not worry about me. I have lived a full life. If this is my time, then so be it. I will face this path with the same resolve and persistence I have all other paths. Just embrace and love your dear ones. I am sorry, OP, my heart aches for you. You are strong. Honestly, it is truly reassuring to hear how astute you are with your assets and finances. It is a shame that Jane will barely see any of it. Just kidding. It is not a shame at all. Today I had my lawyer, a notary, the twins, Sarah, and Steve at my farm. The necessary tasks are complete. This process has proceeded as smoothly as possible. It is understandable that the family is hurt and angry. When everyone arrived and saw my lawyer and the notary, the tension in the room was palpable. I asked them to simply sit and listen to me. After I finished, they were to sign the papers. Once the documents were signed, I would answer all questions. They are all aware of the trust. I explained to them that it was time for me to transfer control of the trust to them. I detailed the trust's significance in my life, why I established it, and how it remains separate from my marriage to Jane by mutual agreement. I also provided instructions on how I wished them to manage and utilize the trust. We clarified that the trust would be divided between the twins and the grandchildren, with Sarah and Steve holding equal proxy votes for the grandchildren until each reached the age of 25. Their faith in me was evident, as they signed the documents and had them notarized. After that was done, copies were collated, and I dismissed my lawyer and the notary. I walked them out and thanked them for coming on a Sunday. They were both as courteous as ever. When I returned to the dining room, which was serving as a conference room, they were all silent. My daughter broke the quiet with the first question, or rather, a multi-part question, a stream of consciousness. As soon as she paused, I began discussing my health. I explained the reality of my diagnosis. I listened as they started making plans on how we would fight this, and this is where I stopped them. I explained the grim probabilities. I told them I had already sought a second opinion. Then I shared what you all already know. I am not pursuing treatment. I am letting nature take its course. We spent the next 90 minutes arguing. My daughter left the room a few times. Sarah had to retrieve her. While they were gone, Steve, my son, and I had a heartfelt discussion. They comprehend my perspective. They might not agree, but they understand. The consensus is that Sarah and my daughter will eventually come around. After everything calmed down, I knew the next question was inevitable. When did I find out? I told them, and this brought another wave of anger and sadness. I explained that I desired one more holiday week where I was not merely existing as a terminally ill man. I admitted I was selfish. I wanted this diagnosis to become public after the holidays. I did not want it to forever tarnish their festive seasons. My daughter, sensing there was more to reveal, adopted a determined, investigative demeanor. She declared she would not leave the room until all was disclosed. She asked, "How in the world did Jane not tell her?" That is when I delivered the final revelation. I recounted to them the exact sequence of events I shared in my initial post. That was the first time I truly witnessed intense rage in my daughter's eyes. I then informed them that, to this day, Jane remains unaware that I know. I essentially answered the same questions, hypothetical scenarios, and so forth that you all suggested, so I suppose you all prepared me well. In the end, I told them I valued them far more than Jane. For me, I simply want to spend my remaining days in peace, free from concerns about Jane. I had to explain my actions during the holiday week. They also connected the dots regarding her frequent excursions outside for air and her trip into town, where she was unwilling to take the grandchild. They expressed concern that I had endured all this alone. I told them I had some online acquaintances who supported me through the most challenging period. I refused to disclose where or how they could learn more, as I wished to maintain this private space for myself. The emotions were incredibly raw, and we had been conversing intermittently as a group for several hours. But I told them I needed to return to discussing the trust. They grasped that the trust would be instrumental in preventing Jane from acquiring my diligently earned wealth, that it safeguarded them, and that was why she was excluded from this meeting. With that established, I then needed to share the trust's financial details. I am quite certain they had all viewed the trust as merely a tax avoidance scheme, or simply a way to protect assets in a marriage where the children were from another woman. They were unprepared for me to reveal the finances. As I began to outline the assets and balance sheets, the room fell silent. One question emerged. Why did you work so diligently all these years when you possessed such substantial wealth? I explained my philosophy of personal finance, something they had heard many times before and taken to heart. But I told them that I had lived off the trust all these years. I funded their college education with that trust. I carved out time in my life for them because of that trust. And I was able to work for a nonprofit organization, essentially without pay, because of that trust. If there is any example I wish to instill in them and their children, it is to utilize this trust to effect positive change for others, not merely by writing occasional checks to charities, but by actively working for causes they deeply believe in. In my years with this nonprofit, I accomplished far more in training others and fostering connections than simply writing a check ever could. I am not pleased that today, everyone's lives at that table changed in so many ways, both good and bad, because of me. It was not the outcome I desired, but it is done. They all know. I have implored and pleaded with them to let me handle Jane and not to discuss the trust with anyone. We will maintain the status quo for now. When my health declines further, then things will change. They have all agreed. We spent the next few hours preparing a meal, conversing, crying, laughing, and breaking into smaller groups. They all departed about an hour ago, but I anticipate the twins will return. I know they will inform their spouses about what is happening. That is simply their nature. And I deeply love my two in-law children. I knew that last night was my final quiet evening. I feel a burden lifted but replaced with a new weight of concern. Thank you all for reading. Your thoughts and well wishes are incredibly valuable to me. Again, tell your loved ones how you feel and embrace them. Wow, I completely understand your desire to spend the remainder of your days in peace, free from worries about Jane. You deserve that, OP. Just a brief update. I was surprised by a visit from one of my wife's female friends. She is roughly the same age as Jane. Her name is Carol. She was with my wife last week during their girls' night in. In fact, the gathering was at Carol's house. If you recall my previous comments, you would know that last week Jane returned home very intoxicated, having used a rideshare service. Carol is an old acquaintance of my wife. I suppose after being married for over 2 decades, my wife had forgotten that I was the one who introduced her to Carol. Carol's parents were friends of my own parents. Well, I believe my unpredictability contributed to my wife's instability. During last week's girls' night, Jane reached a breaking point. She became so inebriated that she confessed her affair to Carol. Apparently, she just kept talking, even after Carol urged her to stop. Carol grew increasingly angry, condemning Jane, while Jane continuously attempted to justify her actions, laying out an endless stream of details. The following day, Carol contacted Jane. Jane, it seemed, remembered nothing from the previous night. Carol summarized Jane's confession. Jane completely denied having an affair, insisted she never said those things, and claimed Carol was mistaken. Carol told Jane she was full of nonsense and had 1 week to come clean, or Carol would tell me herself. Since Jane continued to deny everything, I received my visit from Carol. So over coffee, I received an abbreviated account of Jane's confession. Carol expected me to be devastated. I surprised her by revealing that I already knew. I asked her who else was present when Jane made this confession. Carol was the only other person in the house. I inquired of Carol if she had told anyone else, which offended her. She stated that she would never spread such information before speaking with me. I apologized. I explained to her that I had my own timeline for dealing with Jane, and involving others would complicate my plans, so I had to ask. Carol was understanding. I asked her, as a favor to me, not to mention it to anyone and to allow Jane to believe that Carol accepted her denial. Carol agreed with my first request but stated that the second part did not feel right. I asked her to try. I assured her I would be okay. Carol said that if I needed anything else, all I had to do was ask. I know I will have to offer another apology when Carol learns about my health, but I will address that another day. So, I plan to confront Jane tomorrow. We have a regular date night, and I intend to calmly inform her of what I know, my medical condition, and how I plan to spend the rest of my life without her. I hope the public setting will minimize any drama. Whether it proceeds as planned or becomes a complete disaster, I will update sometime this weekend. My intention is, after the confrontation, to give her what I know, requesting her not to contact me or my family. We shall see how it unfolds. Oh wow, how quickly fortunes change. Everything eventually catches up to people. Individuals can flee, but they cannot escape. Update 5. Mike Tyson famously said, "Everyone has a plan until they get punched in the mouth." Indeed, not every plan unfolds exactly as envisioned. Mine was no exception. Allow me a moment to outline my strategy for you. Jane and I have a weekly date night, and we typically frequent the same restaurant. So much so, we have a preferred table. It is situated at the back, still public, but removed from the high-energy area near the bar. I decided this would be the location for my confrontation. I planned to do it after dessert. I arranged for my lawyer and his wife to have reservations at the same time. I settled the payment for both our party's meals with our server before we even began. She has been serving us for years. I had Carol on standby to assist Jane after my departure. My plan was to conclude the meal with a discussion about our relationship. I intended to record it. Then I would confront her, tell her what I knew, disclose my diagnosis, outline my future intentions, and present her with a letter asking her not to contact me or my family or come to the farm. I would have the letter witnessed. I would also leave her a briefcase filled with evidence, along with the divorce papers. Then, I would simply stand up and walk away. I expected her to avoid creating a scene to protect her social standing. I did record the conversation. She gushed about the wonderfulness of our relationship over the years. She spoke about how great we were as a team. I asked her if I had always treated her well, if I had ever mistreated her, and so forth. She replied, "Of course not." Then I asked her, "Why did you cheat on me?" She claimed she did not know what Carol had told me, but that Carol was mistaken. I informed her I had known even before Carol told me. At that moment, I believe everything Jane had prepared to counter this conversation vanished, and so did the color from her face. All she could manage was to ask, "What?" I then instructed her to let me finish without an outburst, and she nodded in agreement. She transformed from a self-assured and proud woman to one utterly stunned and bewildered. All she could do was nod. I then explained how I came home after my doctor's appointment. I was rushing back to have the most difficult conversation with the one person I truly wanted to speak with. I explained that when I drove up, I saw his car. I then checked the cameras and observed they were in privacy mode. I decided then to go to the farm. I told her that I still possessed the footage, and she almost interrupted to ask how, but I simply raised my hand to remind her to let me conclude. I told her about my diagnosis and my decision not to fight the disease. I saw the heartbreak in her eyes, and I felt a surge of anger. How could she feel sorrow for me? But I pressed on. I then signaled the waitress, who went and retrieved my lawyer. Both approached our table. My lawyer handed me a briefcase and a folder containing a letter. I told her that I did not want her to contact me or my family, or come to the farm after I left tonight. I signed the letter and requested the server to witness it. The server and lawyer then watched me present the letter to Jane. I then dismissed them. I concluded by handing the briefcase to Jane. I told her I knew far more than she anticipated. I was utterly devastated. Inside were divorce papers, already signed by me. She could sign them and initiate the divorce proceedings. I told her I did not expect to survive a contested divorce. As long as I am alive, she can remain at the house in town. I will be at the farm. I will not see her after tonight. I do not wish to hear any excuses. I have arranged for Carol to help her get home. In typical fashion, Jane maintained her composure in public. She simply uttered a quick, "But I just reminded her, I am leaving, and I am done." I approached the server and gave her a generous tip. I found the owner and apologized for not providing them advance notice. As I was leaving, I saw my son at the door with Carol. Carol passed me with a quick smile, then a look of concern in her eyes for Jane. My son took my truck and his wife drove me to the farm. My son and his wife stayed with me Friday night. I finally persuaded them to go home at midnight. I went to sleep with a profound sense of relief, but also with a renewed feeling of loss. Still, I was able to accomplish the task I needed to do. The family came to the farm on Saturday to ensure I was all right. I felt a bit pampered, but it was a good day until Carol arrived in the afternoon. She mentioned that Jane had completely broken down Friday night, but apparently contacted her affair partner on Saturday. After their conversation, Jane realized she was merely being used by the affair partner and was in a truly distressed state. Carol made sure to inform me that Jane had not asked her to reach out to me, but Carol felt that if I could speak with Jane for a short while, it might give Jane the strength to keep herself out of my life. Carol knows how to phrase her requests well. I reluctantly agreed to a 2-hour discussion at the farm with Jane. I would have someone present before me, and Jane could choose someone to be there for her. We would have a civil conversation. I would not tolerate blame, minimization, or blame shifting. The purpose of the meeting would be for her to receive answers on how to proceed. That meeting occurred this morning. Jane chose Carol. I am not sure why, perhaps for damage control, and I chose my daughter. I wanted it to be as comfortable for Jane as possible, simply so we would not have to repeat this again. I entered the meeting with a firm resolve and the objective of removing Jane from my life. The meeting unfolded as expected. Jane cried, apologized, and attempted to downplay the affair. I was having none of it. I stated that she would have a place to live until my death. After that, the house decision would rest with the trustees. I explained that she would receive nothing from my estate or from the trust, but she has her 6-figure pension and her own trust, so she will be perfectly fine. I must express my frustration about something. She said, "Why won't you fight for me or us?" I almost lost my temper with her, but I simply responded with, "I just don't care about you or us anymore." That seemed to utterly crush her. I am going to express my anger. This is the mindset of a selfish cheater. All they consider is themselves. Even after destroying someone, they expect to retain enough value in that person's eyes for them to fight. To hell with that. I was not worth fighting for her against her desires or greed. To hell with her. Apologies for the outburst. Jane received the answers she asked for, but in retrospect, did not want. I do not want another meeting. I feel that continuing these meetings merely distracts me from what I wish to do. Carol and Jane departed, but Carol returned a couple of hours later. She and I had a quick conversation. Apparently, the affair partner had received notice from the trustees that they intend to convert the loan into shares of his company. Since the trust will become the majority owner, they are requesting a full forensic audit. My daughter, with her MBA, is wasting no time. Well, I suppose when Jane sought comfort from him, she realized what I had already suspected. He was using her to see if she could purchase the loan from me. There were subtle hints in the recordings that made me suspect he was up to something. With the paperwork filed, the affair partner, knowing I had sold the loan to the trust, and Jane no longer being in my life, her usefulness to him evaporated, and he made sure she knew it. Apparently, Jane also confided in Carol that her trust is depleted. She will only have the income from her pension. She envisioned a more glamorous life with the affair partner than with me. She genuinely believes his net worth surpasses mine. He drives expensive cars, dines at upscale restaurants, and flies first class, while my husband enjoyed his farm, drove an old truck, and we flew economy class. She was planning on divorcing me when he expressed his undying love and desire to marry her. It disgusts me that she is so greedy and superficial. I will not witness it, but I expect my family will inform her of my true worth after my death. I am so relieved that her true nature was revealed now, allowing me to deal with her and spare my family her presence. Then Carol did something completely unexpected that caught me off guard. She told me that since I am no longer burdened by marriage, if I needed companionship, I should call her. I challenged her, asking why, given my diagnosis, she or any woman would want to spend time with me. There is no long-term prospect. She responded that just because Jane was ignorant and did not appreciate what she had, it did not mean any divorced woman or widow would not eagerly line up to spend whatever time I have left with me. She stated that I am an exceptional man, and any time with me would be treasured. She believed I would have quite a few female callers lining up, and she might as well be the first. I asked her, but most will not know Jane and I are separated. She replied that Jane does not want the social circles to know, but that she and Sarah would ensure her story got out. I was polite and told her I would let her know. She smiled and gave me a kiss on the cheek. I considered it after she left, but I am fairly certain I do not want that complication in my life right now. I have omitted quite a bit, but those are the main points. I am doing well. It has been an emotional journey. I need a few days of calm and quiet. The social groups will soon learn both about the dissolution of my marriage and my diagnosis. I will now face an endless stream of people wishing me well. I knew I could not postpone it indefinitely, but I do not wish to be treated differently. However, life is what it is. Time to prepare dinner and relax this evening. Again, thank you all for your unwavering support. I will try to respond to all your messages. They mean so much to me. Speaking of messages, let us check in with the community once more. Raven Lyron said, I was awaiting this update all day. I am so invested that I feel such relief now that you have confronted Jane. My blood boiled when she asked why you would not fight for her in the relationship psychotic after everything she did. I am glad that the affair partner manipulated her and that everyone in the family knows. For your information, your daughter is the MVP for her actions. I also love that she squandered her trust. What a fool. Carol is something else. I mean, she is not wrong. He sounded like an incredible person. But goodness, Carol, give the original poster a day at least. Also, I love that she will inform the social group. I do not know if you will continue to update. I hope you do. But if not, I hope the rest of your days are filled with peace and the love of your family. The original poster responded, thanks for the support. I must admit, Carol took me by surprise. She said she wanted to be first in line. I suppose she believes that bravery often brings success. I am sure there will be more drama that I will need to process and seek support for. Thanks. I believe your reaction and emotions are completely valid. To ask, why won't you fight for me or us? She should be asking herself that. And then there is Carol. I think I laughed aloud when I read that she was making advances. I understand a diagnosis like that can be a lonely time. But yes, that would be awkward. First, I am doing fine. I am still alive and well. Each day I am on my feet is a blessing. My coughing has worsened slightly. I am experiencing some discomfort. I notice I get breathless more easily. Overall, though, it has been a good week. Let us begin with Jane. She has retreated. Her standing in the community has plummeted severely and rapidly. Once the news spread, she was politely asked to resign from her leadership positions. Most of her social circle has judged her harshly and directly inquired if she pursued their husbands. She has attempted to reach out a few times. I have not responded. A couple of attempts were through intermediaries. I simply asked the person to tell her that I have said what I needed to say and I know all I need to know. I truly do not care if she requires closure. Why should I concern myself with her selfish need for that? She knows how I feel because I told her. Some details of the affair. It had been ongoing for at least 6 months. They took 3 trips together. On one, they pretended to be newlyweds. Another was a couple celebrating a 20-year wedding anniversary. And the last they met on vacation, staying at the same hotel. I suppose role-playing was part of their dynamic. She used my house because she felt comfortable there, but also because the house is set back from the road and passers-by cannot see cars in the driveway. She also purchased a second car and parked it in an in-town parking garage. She apparently swapped vehicles when she went to her partner's house, so no one would recognize her car. She was very concerned about how this would be perceived by anyone in her social circle, perhaps so I would not catch her. Her actions alone demonstrate the immense effort she invested in the affair with her partner. All these efforts alone solidify in my mind how I feel and how I handled the affair. I have no regrets about my actions. The drunken confession to Carol was only partly due to my unpredictability. Apparently, as soon as the notice of my sale of the affair partner's loan to the trust was received, he began to distance himself from Jane. I suppose from the pressure of almost being caught and her partner starting to lose interest in her, she got drunk and revealed everything to Carol. You know what happened after that. It is quite clear to me that her partner had ulterior motives for his involvement in the affair. This does not excuse Jane in the slightest. It merely makes Jane more pathetic. It appears that her partner desired Jane's assistance with his loan from me, and Jane desired a more extravagant life with her partner's money. It is interesting how unpleasant people gravitate towards each other. If all of us decent people simply allowed the contemptible ones to pair up, we could find better partners. My apologies to all those who, out of a sense of loyalty, work towards reconciliation. It was not for me. Her partner is displeased about my daughter's intentions. It appears he will attempt to halt it in court. All he stands to lose is more money. I have heard rumors that he has tried to raise capital from other investors to repay this loan, but unfortunately for him, news of his actions has already begun to circulate among my business acquaintances. Remember when I said you invest in individuals, not companies? Well, there are not many who wish to invest in him. I do not know what my daughter has planned for his company, but it employs quite a few people, so she will work diligently to ensure it continues, solely for their sake. I believe she is concerned if her partner has concealed anything in the company's financial records that would harm the employees. I hope it is nothing that cannot be rectified. Family time has been wonderful. I attended a high school basketball game with the family this week. I also organized a poker night that was fantastic. I had some old friends, my son, and my grandson at the game. The grandson got to observe how older men gathered, sharing stories, and simply enjoying an evening together. I hope to have a few more of these. We have eaten as a family 3 times this week. Carol did visit one evening and brought dinner. We ate and conversed, but I maintained a degree of distance. I am still not comfortable letting her fully into my life. Being on the farm brings me comfort. I walk the fences, sometimes drive, check on the animals, oversee the employees, and assist with equipment maintenance. Knowing that this farm will remain in the family and continue to operate fills me with peace. A part of me will persist beyond my time here. I have also had numerous friends and acquaintances stop by. Someone mentioned a living wake, and I believe this is what they meant. I am encouraging everyone to come and visit me. I enjoy spending time with these individuals, even if it might be the last time. Thank you for that suggestion. Thank you all for your support. It truly helps. Now, let us return to the community for a few more comments. New 80 Guy 77 said, "She purchased a second car? How could she spend that much money and go undetected? That is some seriously secretive behavior. There is no way she can claim it was just an impulsive fling. As for her partner, I hope some forensic accounting will expose his wrongdoings. My bet is on him mysteriously vanishing to evade prosecution. Wishing you the best, OP." The original poster replied, "Remember, she has her own trust, and she insisted at the start of our marriage that we keep our finances separate. But yes, she was very calculating, and these small details are also now known by the gossip circles in her social group. I love how consequences always catch up to those who are trying to escape something. It is amusing how her partner had his own motives. He wanted everything he had but lacked the character or deserving nature for it. On another note, I am glad you are spending more time with family. Surrounding yourself with people who love and care for you, you will certainly live on, OP. I regrettably saw Jane again. I am still here, but it has been a bit challenging. I am home now, but I did spend a few days in the hospital. I was discovered unconscious but still breathing, so they took me to the emergency room. I have a do not resuscitate order, but I never actually died. I have always disliked hospitals, but now, with my diagnosis, I truly despise them. I do not wish to die there. I have been home for a while now. I can no longer drive off the farm. In fact, they prefer I do not drive on the farm, but I am determined to continue my chores and witness the sunrise and sunset for as long as I can. I also have full-time home healthcare workers, or as I call them, babysitters, but I am not going to argue with the family about that. So, essentially, I remember nothing until I awoke in the hospital. Most of my family and Carol were in the room. I was stable by then, and the doctor simply wanted to observe me for a day or two and, of course, conduct more tests to be certain. I had either my twins, Sarah, or Carol with me almost constantly. There was one night when no one was with me, and I woke up to find Jane in my room. I suppose she used the wife card on a duty nurse who was unaware of the restriction. I was weary, but she was playing the role of the sweet and devoted wife. I do not know why. Then when I realized she was holding my hand and stroking my head, I pulled away. She seemed hurt. She then began her new refrain of being so sorry, claiming she meant nothing, that she was trying to use him, and so forth. I just sat there, not engaging. This agitated her. She demanded that I speak to her. She was just loud enough to attract the nurse's attention. The nurse noticed Jane's demeanor and my discomfort. The nurse was skillful. She told Jane to wait outside because she needed to perform some routine checks. Once Jane was out of the room and the door was closed, the nurse asked me if I was okay. I informed her that Jane was my ex-wife and that there should be notes prohibiting her entry. She apologized and asked what she could do to minimize my stress. I asked her to call my emergency contacts. She did, and in about 45 minutes, Sarah, my daughter, and Carol walked into the room. By then, Jane was back and still spewing her nonsense, but at a very quiet level. Once Jane saw them, she knew she needed to leave. I quietly asked her to simply go. None of the other patients deserved her creating a scene, to stop thinking only of herself and just leave. I am very grateful that she departed quietly, but she first gave me a quick peck on the forehead. I recoiled slightly, but if I had to accept that for the peace of the other patients, then so be it. The women in my life profusely apologized to me. Honestly, I cannot be angry with them. They have their own lives. They all worked out a schedule to ensure I was not left alone again, and I am sure my daughter thanked the nurse for calling them, while simultaneously expressing her anger to the staff for allowing Jane in when they had specific instructions to the contrary. This incident simply demonstrates that Jane is like a person drowning, desperately grasping for anything. I am not special in her eyes. She merely sees me as something she can exploit to stay afloat. After every interaction with Jane, I only perceive how much darker and more corrupt her soul is. Her partner is still as much of an arrogant fool as he was before. His accounting department has recognized the shifting power dynamics, and in meetings with my daughter, pretty much provided her with a complete picture. There is no criminal conduct by her partner in his business. It is clear that he was exploiting every benefit and loophole to increase his income beyond his base pay, at the expense of the company's profitability. So, when my daughter assumes control, he will experience a 60% reduction in his value from the company, and that truly infuriates him. I have a feeling she might just outright terminate him and relegate him to a silent minority owner role, so his extravagant lifestyle is going to face a harsh reality. He has threatened lawsuits, but has not initiated any action yet. I believe his credit and/or reputation in the area are severely damaged. Carol has become a more consistent presence in my life. I must say, I do not mind her company and companionship. Perhaps she is gradually winning me over. She has been staying over several days a week. I hope to recover sooner rather than later, but since I can no longer drive, I will have to rely on others more. This is unfamiliar territory for me. Carol has been eagerly volunteering to support me in this area, and before you ask, no, there is nothing physical between us other than sitting in close proximity. Thank you all for your continued support. Back to the community with Comfortable East, 2228. I have been following your story as you have been posting. I just want to wish you continued strength and peace on this unfortunate journey. While my story is not quite the same as yours, I had a massive stroke 6 years ago, and what it did for me was give me clarity in my life. And I was able to discover who was truly loyal to me and eliminate a lot of unnecessary burdens. This helps me make whatever time I have left until my next stroke, which could happen any time, whether a week or 10 years, as meaningful as possible. We are not promised anything. I hope that whatever time you have left, you do whatever brings you the most happiness. Take care and good luck, sir. It is appalling to hear that Jane was behaving this way and attempting to discuss the affair while you were recuperating in a hospital bed. That is repulsive conduct, in my opinion. To do something like that while the person is in a vulnerable state, that is so wrong. Additionally, Carol seems like a surprise, but a pleasant one. I am glad you have some form of companionship in your life right now. Perhaps she was right about you needing it. Maybe she knows more about you than you realize yourself. I am sorry to have to inform you all that my father passed away this week. I have been reading his posts and responses as often as I can for the past few days. I hear his voice so clearly in his writings and replies. One of his requests was to deliver his letter to you, his online community. Well, if you are reading this letter, you know that my time here has ended. As all of you had suggested, I had written letters to all my family members and also created videos for them. While responding to your posts, I began referring to you as my online family. That prompted me to realize I needed to write one final letter, a letter addressed to all of you. I want to thank you all for your support and suggestions. This brief period has been incredibly significant to me and will clearly be important to my family long after I am gone. You helped me achieve my final gift to myself and to my family, that last Christmas week together as a family. Without a place to vent and gain support, I would have had to return to my family sooner, and doing that would have meant abandoning my goal. My family might not perceive it as a gift right now, but they will in the future. I cannot express how much I enjoyed making those little videos. My family will have another small piece of me, and that is thanks to all of you. I would not have created any of those simple videos without your encouragement and ideas. Honestly, I would not have even considered it. I do have one request for all of you. My family will be experiencing many emotions. I understand that by sharing my story, you all desire a conclusion. Please allow my family to grieve and keep requests for updates to a reasonable minimum. I have asked them to provide you with this letter, and if they feel able, to give a final update on Jane. That final update is entirely up to them. I have asked them. I just ask you all to be patient. Finally, I wish you all the very best, all the love I can provide from the great beyond. Remember, none of us are promised tomorrow. Understand yourself and be kind to those around you. I hope none of you endure the path I have had to walk, but if you do, I will, in any way I can, walk it with you. Remember, you are all worth so much. Never let anyone tell you otherwise. I will send as many virtual embraces as I can from wherever I end up. Saying thank you sometimes feels insufficient, but those are the words I have right now. Thank you. I hope we meet in the beyond, just not too soon. One last comment from the community, from I Haveless One. It should be us thanking your father. He came here with an absolutely nightmarish situation, yet he handled it with a level of grace and charm that many of us can only aspire to. The fact that his entire family, even the wayward wife, advocated for him is a testament to his character. I just want your family to know that the support we offered him pales in comparison to the hope he has given us and will continue to give us. He was, is, and always will be one of the finest examples of how to manage an affair. What an experience, what a family, what a king. Thank you. My heartfelt condolences to the family. This breaks my heart. I knew this was coming, but did not expect to read it so soon. Thank you for sharing your story and your family with us, OP. The commenters are absolutely correct. You managed this entire situation with a level of composure and charisma that few of us can claim to have demonstrated or would have demonstrated. My condolences to your family. I hope your final days were filled with peace and unconditional love. You are truly unique. Your legacy will endure. Please share your thoughts and kind words in the comments below. Thank you for joining us today on this platform. Like and subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you do not miss our next video. We would hate for you to miss out. If you wish to hear more stories from me, check out our lounge, where I feature a wider variety of non-cheating related narratives. See you there.